Much of Australia is dry desert land. In the arid heart of the country, there is a delicate balance between weather patterns and some living organisms. There is barely a hint of moisture, forcing most inhabitants to adjust to the harsh environment. The coasts offer a very different ecosystem in supporting life. An extreme weather system is setting off a chain reaction, giving scientists their first chance to witness an extraordinary event. They will witness firsthand the mating habits of one of Australia's most mysterious inhabitants, the banded stilt. In this edition, we journey deep into the Australian outback to witness how one storm set off a cycle, resulting in one of the most successful breeding events in this region in years. Ornithologists study all different aspects of bird life. Some study how birds live in their environment, while others look at how the physical parts of a bird work together. They focus on how birds locate food, and they research changes in populations of birds across continents. Sometimes, these scientists make new discoveries about bird behavior. A rare event gave them a chance to learn more about the mating habits of the common wading bird, the banded stilt. However, this bird had never been seen mating until now. Ornithologists got their first clues from salt lakes far inland. Still, the reasons why these birds travel so far and congregate in such a small area are not exactly clear. One clue to their behavior can be traced back to their eating habits. A favorite meal of the banded stilt is the brine shrimp. The brine shrimp that last lived in this area left eggs behind, which tolerate the heat and drought for years. Lying dormant, billions of eggs remain preserved in the dried-up salt lakes. With enough precipitation, these eggs might have a chance to hatch, causing an explosion in the population of brine shrimp. This is a satellite image of Cyclone Bobby. A cyclone is a violent storm, especially one originating in the southwestern Pacific Ocean or Indian Ocean. They are comparable to the hurricanes that sometimes form in the Atlantic Ocean. This particular cyclone battered the west coast of Australia for days, leaving destruction in its path. Winds up to 200 kilometers per hour chased ships into shelter. Floods damaged property and cut power to many areas. It's hard to believe amidst all the devastation that something positive could come out of the cyclone. But further inland, the storm is dumping rain on the normally arid desert. The rains cause mass flooding, and enormous amounts of water flow across the red earth towards the lowlands. 3 large salt beds are covered by water. Within days, billions of tiny crustaceans emerge from their long, dormant eggs. In a mystery of nature, banded stilts come from all over to crowd this area, dining in the rich estuaries. They come from the tidal shallows and off the coasts, hundreds of kilometers away. They start to appear the same day the rain stops and continue to fly in for weeks. Strangely, of all the space that is available in these flooded areas, most of the birds decide to crowd together on just 2 small islands in the lake. There are several questions surrounding the banded stilt's habits, because this is the first time their breeding events have been documented from start to finish. Scientists have learned that the birds may only get the chance to mate 3 or 4 times in their lives. As they arrive, there is a sense of urgency. All over the island, birds are pairing up and procreating. It may be that in a short period of time, some 70,000 banded stilts will arrive. This is roughly half of their entire population in Australia. To humans, there is no visible way to determine the sexes of the birds. However, their typical actions during the pursuit of mating clearly distinguish between sexes. Amidst the chaos, eager males approach females, relentlessly pursuing a mate. However, sometimes the females are not receptive. This female keeps her head erect, a clear sign that she is not interested. Many of these stilts are still growing their breeding plumage. This is the distinctive rich chestnut-colored band across the breast. Some continue to grow the plumage even after they've laid eggs. With the amount of birds, it is no surprise that even some with a lack of breeding plumage can still find a mate. There is no chance for this male to succeed here. The female is already sitting on her eggs and only becomes annoyed. In a successful mating session, the female stretches out her bill parallel to the ground and waves it back and forth, indicating approval. The pair continues to perform a unique dance of elation. She will soon lay up to 5 huge eggs. The lake is still able to feed the large crowd of birds because the brine shrimp population is steadily increasing. The algae and bacteria are multiplying to feed the shrimp, and there are no fish or other predators besides the stilts to prey on the shrimp. Within days of hatching, the shrimp are mating. The female shrimp produce around 100 eggs that will hatch in a few weeks' time. The banded stilt is one of the few animals that are adapted to feeding in these salty conditions, and the shrimp are an easy protein-rich meal. But even with the plentiful amounts of brine shrimp available, it can be an arduous task for the new chicks to reach the protein-rich waters. They are at risk because the nests on the island are packed so tightly together that some of the birds' nesting territories are only centimeters apart. And with eggs to protect, some parents become defensive. The chicks must stay close to their parents as they make their way to the water's edge for their first meal. If one strays too far, the adult bird may not be able to come to its rescue. There are 2 other little ones to protect. Becoming disoriented, the stray chick wanders deeper into unwelcoming territory. The chick is battered all the way to the shore. As the beach is usually an area of safety, it is unusual that the bullying continues. However, after the first few days of hatching, this hostile behavior will cease. The unlucky chick is reaching the end of its strength, but it makes one last effort. Finally, it reaches the safety of its parent. Even though the chicks are just a few hours old, they are able to feed themselves. Shortly after their parents escort them to the beach, the families begin to integrate, and some adults return to the island without their young, in an attempt to start another family. Eventually, there will only be a few adult birds watching after a flock of 40 or 50 chicks. The earlier hostility between adults and other chicks ceases as they turn from bullies to babysitters. 3 weeks later, the chicks are half adult size. Having wandered off nearly 50 kilometers from their original nesting sites, the young flocks are still watched over by several adult birds. It is a crucial time in their survival. Their down is being replaced by feathers for their long journey back to the coasts, and the salt lakes still contain an abundance of shrimp for nourishment. In the past, there were incidences when the lakes dried up prematurely because of the lack of follow-up rains. Many chicks were found wandering on foot through the dry desert in desperate need of food. But this time, the follow-up rains have kept the brine shrimp populations high. Nearly 2 months after the storm, the banded stilts will begin their journeys to the coast. They desert the breeding colony, leaving a wake of rotting eggs and other nest debris. As successful as it was, nearly 20% of the eggs failed to hatch. Due to the lack of predators, most hatchlings survived and made it to the coast of the continent. But shortly after the last birds leave, 2 months after the storm, the water levels begin to recede, and the salinity of the water increases. The brine shrimp do what they have to in order to ensure the survival of their species. The female shrimp sink to the bottom, dying as they carry a different type of egg. This egg is equipped with a hard outer casing to survive the possible years of drought to come. The salt will crystallize around them, forming a shroud-like shield. It is good protection while they wait for the next rains. Now, the area is barren and lifeless. It may be years or even decades before the weather allows for this kind of surplus of life again. In this particular case, however, due to Cyclone Bobby and some follow-up rains, the banded stilts have had a very successful breeding opportunity. In response to the unpredictability and irregular weather patterns of the Australian outback, the mysterious banded stilts have evolved, ensuring survival of their species. As long as the delicate balance of organisms, such as the brine shrimp, continue to manage the harsh environmental conditions, the food chain should provide enough stability that the banded stilts will thrive for years to come.